Welcome back to Among Us. We were talking about Among Us in between episodes. Everyone likes that game, right? Right?
Yeah.
How do you do, fellow kids? Hello? Anyone?
Yes.
How do you do, fellow
We
teenagers?
were talking
I
about...
thought your attempt at that was playing Fortnite. That's a. Although I did ask my 10-year-old cousin, and she's like, "No, it's something else. I don't know what they're playing."
What do you mean?
Like she doesn't play video games, but
Okay.
she's like, "No, there's something else they're playing." Like the boys, I guess.
What? Wait, who are you talking about?
My little cousin.
Oh, your little cousins were playing a game?
No, my little cousin. I was talking to my little cousin. We were playing Uno, and I was asking her questions. And she was talking about the video games that kids her age were playing.
Right.
And she could not remember what there was.
Okay.
And it wasn't Fortnite, apparently, so...
It's
Okay.
probably Among Us, yeah. There's only 2 games right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about how there's an Among Us VR, which is a very funny concept. I'm viciously not surprised it exists, though. I in fact, to be honest, I kind of already thought it did exist before they announced it. There was like some like Gmod version.
I think game devs should make more game devs should make VR ports of their games, rather.
VR is an interesting thing, okay? Because it's...
I mean, obviously the game has to fit being put into first person. That doesn't mean every game needs to have a VR port.
No, I know
But,
what you
like-
mean. Here's the thing with VR. I could be wrong, I'm just theorizing, but I feel like it's kind of like a very risky venture because whether you like it or not, no matter how great value and inexpensive getting a VR headset is, a lot of people still don't have them. And these game devs spend a lot of time working on these VR games, and like not a lot of people get them because not a lot of people have VR headsets.
I know. I mean to do it the way that the Payday 2 devs did it, where they release the game and then later they make a VR framework for it, and it's the same exact game.
If it's like an easy,
just
like
have
you can
VR
just kind
control.
of plop it in without doing like spending a shit ton of time on it, kind of thing, then like I wouldn't mind.
I think a lot of people who like horror games get VR for the horror experience.
Yeah, VR works really well in horror.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is like if there was like a game or a game company that I really loved, which actually now I think about it, has happened a few times, and they were like, "Hey, we're working on something big," and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait!" And it's like, "We're making a VR thing," and then I'm immediately like, "Oh well."
So not for me.
Yeah, I can't get that, so I guess that the last 2 years you spent working on that don't mean anything to me personally.
Yeah.
Good for you, but I guess I'll just wait for the next thing and hope that it applies to me.
Yeah.
You know, I know that sounds very dismissive, but I don't know. It's just kind of how I feel about VR right now.
Although, what about Half-Life Alex?
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah.
But Valve are also very like, we just do what we want, fuck you, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter one way or
That's
the
the
other.
great thing about Valve, is they're just minding their own business.
Is it great?
I think that it's better than Nintendo.
Oh yeah, how's that?
I think that Nintendo have more of a quantity over quality in a little way, whereas Valve are more quality over quantity.
I think that
They've almost...
it depends on the franchise and the property.
So there are things that they've done that aren't great?
Well, I think when it comes to Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
I think that, like, for instance, and no offense, Frank, but I think that with Kirby, they're just like, it's a new year, we got to get a new Kirby game out. You know, whatever, fuck it. Kirby's easy, we can just do that. But then there are games like Zelda, which only come out every, like, 6 years or something. So, I don't know. Same with Mario, or mainline Mario games at least. Sports games and stuff, that's like you're like, oh yeah, we got a new console, got to get a new sports game out. But like the big titles like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and whatever, the mainline games, they take their sweet fucking time on.
Yeah.
Valve, on the other hand, like people aren't even sure if they like make games anymore, you know, because they just do what they want, really, in terms of like
They must experiment a lot.
That's kind of more their thing, is that they're more interested in creating and advancing technology.
It must have been what Half-Life Alex was. They
Yes.
must have been like, we're just going to muck around with this, and eventually they're like, oh, fuck it, we'll just make a whole game.
So, well, that's the thing about Half-Life as a series, is that each game is sort of more or less a showcase of the technology that they've created, right? So Half-Life 1 was like showing...
Source.
Not necessarily. It was more like having a gameplay from start to finish with like no cutscenes or anything like that. Like you're playing the whole time.
yeah.
And like interactive story in that regard. That was like a big thing at the time. Half-Life 2 was showing off the Source engine and physics and things, so there's a lot of physics-based puzzles and stuff.
Yep.
And then Half-Life Alyx was showing off their advancements in VR, right? And that's kind of what Half-Life actually is. But the problem with that is, like, while that's cool and all, Half-Life itself is kind of beyond that, at least to the players, and everyone's like, we love this game and this series, please just make more, we beg you. And they're like, no, because we need to create like a brand new technology to show it off. And everyone's like, no, just make the game, man. And that's the thing with Valve. They're far more interested in the technology than the actual game.
And that's
Finger
kind
curls
of
on the monkey's paw. We get Half-Life 3, but now it's in VR because you don't want them to go any further.
Exactly.
So
Well, the thing is, like, the reason that Half-Life Alyx is Half-Life Alyx and not Half-Life 3 is because, like, they are aware that people really want Half-Life 3 to be a big thing, and if they actually make it, they'll really, it'll be more about the game rather than the technology, probably. But
Half-Life 3, newly released game on the
if Half-Life
Neo
3
Geo.
wasn't the most anticipated game of all time, then they probably would have just made Half-Life Alyx Half-Life 3. That's my theory, at least.
yeah.
And there was a period of time when, like, they were just more interested in making games more than anything. They made the Source engine, they had the physics, they had, like, a multiplayer system, they made, like, TF2, they made all these awesome games, great additions, but then, since then, they've kind of just evolved and just kept making, technological things without really making games. They make a few tech demos every now and then. Like there was like a Portal tech demo game that was like kind of interesting, but it was like an hour long and wasn't really anything. Because that's the problem, right? Like Valve's fan base is made up of people who love the games as opposed to people who are just interested in the technology, and that's why there's kind of a divide.
Yeah.
And it's like with TF2, for instance, like Valve are kind of just done with TF2, or at least that's the impression they give off. They're far more interested in working on new things like VR and stuff rather than dedicating time to, continuously updating TF2. But everyone who plays TF2 is like, we just want you to work on the game, man. Just like hire a new person or something, but they don't see it as worth it because it's not like developing technology and stuff. Anyway, that's my Valve rant for the day. Sorry, I just kind of went off. Everything went dark for a second.
Are there like engines and properties that developers use and are just licensed by Valve?
Source, I guess.
But Source isn't that open access? It's open source.
I don't know. I don't know everything that Valve owns.
Because I thought you could actually just make a game with Source.
I don't know.
Because Gary's Mod's a thing, and it exploits the Source engine.
That's a good way of describing Garry's Mod. It exploits the Source engine.
And it's like...
I think Source 2 isn't open, but I don't fucking know.
It's like Unreal Tournament. The Unreal engine was massive, and people used it for years and years and years, and they probably still do. If people... it's got a reputation of being a good engine to use.
Right.
I
mean, I'm not going to pretend that I know what, all that's about. I just know what I know and infer what I infer, I suppose.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We have the one dev that sometimes allowed to work on it during his lunch break,
Yeah. Well, that's the key word there, allow. And there are plenty of people.
He has to maintain the coconut picture to maintain the servers,
Shut up about the damn coconut, dude.
I thought it was spaghetti.
That's the thing. There is plenty of people who work at Valve who honestly would like to work on TF2, but it's such a difficult game to work on. It's such a mess, and there are so many more interesting things going on that require more attention is the problem.
Valve just probably have like certain people who are better off being put on the harder projects, and that's probably like the hard decision they have to make, and then maybe they don't have the time to train the people that could really put that dedication into
potentially. I heard
games.
The person who's currently putting out these patches right now, there's been a bunch of patches recently in response to the movement. I've heard that he's just kind of more of a hired contractor rather than like an actual employee or something like that. So I don't know. Everyone agrees though that they just want Valve to just like make a separate division that's just for games, instead of splitting their company into games and VR and technology. Like just have the main part of Valve do the technology bit, and just like hire on a team that is exclusively dedicated to working on TF2 or CS:GO or just the next Half-Life game or a new property. You know, people want that shit, and I don't know. I feel like they underestimate how much people want it. But I don't know. Again, there's a lot of speculation going on, and I'm probably getting some information completely wrong as well. So I don't know. I just hear what I hear and infer what I infer. I do know that TF2 is a difficult game to work on though, because it has the classic spaghetti code problem, which is where they just kind of kept building code on top of code, and instead of like ironing out the kinks and making it all efficient, it's kind of a big mix and a jumble, and it's really fucking hard to read unless you were there and a part of it. So hiring in new people is pretty hard. But I know you've watched what's his name, Shotik, Frank, the guy who talks about the damn coconut. I feel like if they hired that guy, he could figure it out, because he not only points out bugs and problems in the system.
I learned from the coconut from a Russian Badger video.
Oh, sure. Oh man, Russian Badger, I haven't watched him in a long time. Brings me back. Well, anyway, I was going to say, like, there are plenty of people, I think, out there who, like, not only love TF2, but like kind of know the code and stuff inside out, and what like works and what's like, because that guy on YouTube, I forget his name, it's either Shotik or something like that.
Yeah.
Stephanie can put it up. But he literally says, here's the problem. This is a weird problem in the game, and it's caused by this string of code. And it can be fixed if they just move this thing to this thing. And he like explains his whole process. Like, he doesn't just say there's a glitch and it's weird. He's like, here's a glitch. This is why it's happening, and this is how to fix it. It's like, holy fuck, man. And he's making videos like this every damn week.
It's a new area now.
Oh, cool.
I kind of wish we had more explanation like that. I wonder if there's a channel that goes into like League of Legends code, because there's a content creator named Vandrill, and he basically just does, videos on big bugs that come out.
Hey Frank.
Yeah.
Van drill these nuts. Haha. Next time. Bye-bye.
Got him.